Good evening. This is Sudhir Mishra in yet another episode of Sudhir Mishra Show. Uh, this is a very important episode, episode number 6. We are going to south of India. We are going to Bangalore today. And why we are going to Bangalore today? Because there is a story there. And the aim of this show has been throughout to bring out the nuggets of legal profession, the the real the real people who have shaped the legal profession last 15, 20 years when this economic boom in this country has happened. Indus law is started by a group of 4 to 5 young National Law School Bangalore 2000 batch pass out people is a huge success story in the legal fraternity. And one of the reason is that the person and the people who are spearheading, who co-founded this unique law firm, including Mr. Suneeth Katarki, they all are full of humility, full of commitment, and a bunch of young people surround them. And they are pretty much mirror the entire tech revolution which is happening in our country. So before I bring the founder of this firm, I will say one quote in Hindi to start, because not to promote Hindi in South India, but the format of the show is that we promote Urdu, Shairi, and poetry, and try to say that, make a connect out of them with the personality who is being invited. So I'll say about Suneeth and all the co-founders actually. राहे जिंदगी में ऐसे मोड़ भी आ जाते हैं. राहे जिंदगी में ऐसे मोड़ भी आ जाते हैं. सीधे रखे कदम भी डगमगा जाते हैं. सीधे रखे कदम भी डगमगा जाते हैं. बहकर कदमों को जो संभाल पाता है, बहकर कदमों को जो संभाल पाता है, वो मुकम्मल इंसान कहलाता है. So I welcome Mr. Suneeth Katarki, who came from Hubli, was part of National Law School Bangalore. With his father, he came to the city of Bangalore, and rest is history. Suneeth, most welcome.
Thank you, Sudhir. Thank you.
So, Suneeth, you had a childhood in Hubli, and you came to Bangalore with your father. You had your share of personal trauma right in the early part of your life. You went over them. You worked hard. Your father is a big name in Bangalore. But this unique firm, which came together with initial practice of few of you, and how did Indus happen?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question, Sudhir. Yeah, you're right. I mean, my father was somebody who was himself a first generation lawyer, came from a small town, struggled in Bangalore because, then even today for a lot of litigation lawyers it takes time. So his initial years were a struggle, and then it was a very interesting life for us. Very happy childhood, but very interesting. We lived in a very small house. The dining table used to be my favorite place in the house. I used to eat there. I used to sort of study there. I used to play table tennis there, and I actually used to sleep there because there was no other place in the house to sleep. So that's the sort of background I come from, which in many ways is also very liberating. We went through initial years that I lived was very basic and very simple life. And so even today, I feel that, I can live by any small amount in life, and that's very liberating. In fact, in some ways, maybe also gives you some kind of confidence to do things differently and not worry so much about, how you're going to sort of make the large pots of money. So that was probably also one of the thinking behind starting Indus Law. We started barely 4 years into the profession. The great thing, of course, was that all of us who studied from law school for those days definitely was pioneering in the terms of the education that we got. The kind of knowledge we got about corporate law, particularly apart from other laws, was fabulous. And so what happened was that, when we came out into the profession after passing out from law school, the one thing we realized in Bangalore was you had great lawyers who were dispute resolution lawyers, litigating lawyers, fantastic lawyers. We had another set of lawyers who claimed to be corporate lawyers, but who really were great at servicing a client. They had good offices. They would make sure that the client was met on time. They would make sure that the client would have tea, the client would be listened to, etc., which none of the litigation lawyers, would do, right? I mean, for them, they came with a slightly different mindset and attitude. But these corporate lawyers, funnily, didn't really have that much of depth in terms of their knowledge. So there were very, very, very few firms which straddled both. That is, provided great service as a law firm and had good legal knowledge, particularly in Bangalore. I'm sure there were few by then in Bombay and probably some in Delhi, and those were the ones that succeeded. But Bangalore really didn't have any of those.
Very good thoughts. I'll hold your thoughts. I'll bring you to a very important thing. On a lighter note, I'll say that a lot of time we hear in Delhi High Court, and in the Delhi High Court especially, that we say that, oh, the National Law School Bangalore is so strong here. I think they should be lucky that most of the Indus founders didn't land up in Delhi directly. So that's because I know how much impact your law school has made here also. Of course, I come from Campus Law Center, and for us, from 2004-5 onward, we started seeing the youngsters coming from your law school, and they had a certain integrity about it, and which always reflects. So friends working together is a difficult proposition, and especially law school friends. And I know that the founding was a little bit of, it is started, and I also want to congratulate you. One of your partners has become now, one of the counsel has become the senior advocate in Karnataka. I think Srinivas. So that's a big news. And that also shows the success and maturity of the kind of law firm which has been created. But how, now the story here is that how friends should work together. And you are a great integrator. Bismarck hai aap. So how friends work together?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, one of the first things that we discussed when we set up was that come what may, however this may go, we will not sort of, sacrifice our friendship. We'll always remain friends. So that was one of the first principles we started with. A couple of other advantages of actually having friends as your people you start a firm with is that you can shout at them, you can scream at them, you can have any kind of debate you want with them about whatever issue that is relevant to the firm, in terms of, you always have differences in how we want to grow the practice, how we want to grow the firm. But the great thing is you have those discussions, heated debates, next day morning, it's all forgotten, you're still friends. I've seen so many boardrooms where issues are not discussed and debated hotly simply because people are worried about sensitivities. People are concerned, oh, if I really bring this up and, will that person take it personally, etc. So no such fears at all, because we're all very, very good friends. We had gone through law school together. We had done all sorts of interesting things together, like you do in college. Everybody does.
So the good part is, Suneeth, that you'll agree that one of the talks about in the foreign law circle, and I have seen Gaurav Dhani, actually, I've met him in the International Bar Association conferences. One of the things which is your, I would say, hallmark is the unity at the top. The founders have, who I think none of you have touched 50. I have crossed 50, though I passed out 1 year later than you, but because I came in law a little late. But none of you have passed out 50 or you are nearing 50. The unity is there. None of you are related to each other. And I also understand none of your wives or anybody from family works at the top in the firm. Is it true?
That's true. In fact, my wife is my classmate from National Law School, but I have never encouraged her to join Indus Law, nor has she been keen to join in Indus Law. So we've always been very clear about that we're just going to keep this. Once we start together, then we're going to keep it very professional. And while friends are welcome, they're welcome based on merit and based on, professional excellence. And that's something that we've always maintained. The one other advantage of, being friends is also, a lot of people, if they are one-man led firms, feel lonely sometimes. The issues that firms always face in the, when they're growing, when they're, at any stage of the firm. And they feel they don't know who to discuss this with. You can't potentially discuss with somebody else because sometimes some of the things that you want to talk about is so confidential. It's not appropriate to talk about those things. So we had the advantage that we were together, so we could sort of discuss, bounce things off each other. So we never felt lonely. Lonely at the top is an often used phrase and something that we didn't suffer from. And that is the other advantage we actually had. So some of these things were, sensitivities, being friends, people are worried. We try to look at what are the advantages and try to focus on them and use that to sort of help propel the firm.
Yeah. And at this stage, I'll ask, in fact, I know you will talk about it, that if one can say that one big moment for Indus in Bangalore is, for us who are outsider, but who understand your trajectory, is the tech thing, the whole tech thing, which mirrored in Bangalore. So the rise of Indus actually mirrors the rise of the startups, which became large startups from Redbus to Ola and wherever you work. Before I hear that story, I will again trouble you with another Hindi thing about it, because that is what your firm did. रहने दे आसमान, जमीन की तलाश कर. रहने दे आसमान, जमीन की तलाश कर. सब कुछ यही है, ना कहीं और तलाश कर. हर आरजू पूरी हो तो जीने का क्या मजा. हर आरजू पूरी हो तो जीने का क्या मजा. जीने के लिए बस एक कमी की तलाश कर. तो कमी बैंगलोर में थी कि कॉर्पोरेट लॉ फर्म्स नहीं थे. You went in a surgical strike mode on startups, and you went and did free seminars. You went ahead without actually looking at the billing or the money as a byproduct. You first ensured that you are there for all these startups. And when other cities were having like 5 startups, Bangalore was having 95 startups. That's the issue. How did that happen?
Yeah, you're right. It was a combination of the fact that we were possibly at the right place at the right time. It's a conscious effort that we also did in terms of reaching out, as you said, by way of various seminars, reaching out to that community. Also the big advantage, and this continued to be a big advantage for us as lawyers. We engage with a lot of these promoters who today are billionaires. When they started small, and when they used to come to our office, I would say, you may struggle to find parking. The guys would say, don't worry, I'm just coming in my two-wheeler, or I'm coming in an auto. And these are billionaires today, right? So it is fantastic learning about their businesses and how they were growing at such a young age. We were just literally 5-6 years out as lawyers. At that time, these guys also were youngsters, but from the guy who's envisioning the business, who's building that business, to understand how his business is sort of coming up and to be able to provide legal answers and solutions to those guys, that was a great learning. I mean, that's something that you won't get in books. Law school taught us fantastic legal academics, but that kind of an ability, and as a business lawyer and a corporate lawyer, one of the things you have to do is marry the law and the business. If you don't do that, no client will consider you great. You may be fantastic in theory, but you have to translate that theory into a business solution for a client, and that's what he appreciates you for. So to understand that thinking of a lot of these promoters and how they think about their business, we didn't have an access to an Ambani or an Aditya Birla, right? This is what we had access to, the founders of these companies that became unicorns eventually. And that learning is what we took along with us and helped ourselves grow, and then the firm also.
Wonderful. You'll be very happy to know that a few of the startups we are advising, one of my partners said that Indus is from the other side. One of the large fund house you are advising, and we are advising an entrepreneur who is becoming very big now. So we can see that if it is Bangalore, like Bangalore has these brands, Infosys, we say it's a brand of coming out of Bangalore, Ola. Indus also is going in that direction, and it's very aspirational for firms of my size or youngsters who are coming out of law schools. What do you think about, in general, about the economy moving post-pandemic, role of Bangalore and the tech companies, and also few of the unicorns you are very bullish about?
Yeah, so I think hopefully the pandemic is really behind us. I don't see any serious third wave. There may be, Possibly will be a third wave, but I suspect it will be mild. Of course, I'm no expert, but this is my sense and my gut feeling. So I think the economy will start moving forward. We were projected to be a $5 trillion economy by 2025. That may not happen. Maybe it'll take a little longer, but the next 10 years, I suspect will be $7, $8 trillion economy. So we're talking about huge amount of growth. Literally two and a half times in the next 10 years at least. And most of that will be in the organized sector. And a huge bulk of it will again be in the tech sector. Tech is what is driving all the innovations, right? So that's therefore tremendous opportunity for people who want to set up law firms, the existing law firms to grow much more, to service these clients. There's a great demand for it. Bangalore will continue to be a big, attractive sort of place for any tech guy to be, any tech company to be. I remember one of these unicorns moving from Bombay several years back, and I said, "You are all from Bombay. You're born, brought up in Bombay. What made you move to Bangalore?" He said, "Suneeth, I intend to hire 2,000 engineers in the next 16 months to 18 months. The only place I can do that is Bangalore. Really? I cannot get that kind of engineering talent in any other city yet." So that's why they moved lock, stock, and barrel to Bangalore. And that ability to sort of attract engineers, the number of engineering colleges that were set up back in the 80s, 90s has contributed to Bangalore being the tech hub, and will continue to grow because that's a key factor for any tech company, the human resources and the engineering talent. So hopefully on the back of that, we are, of course, one of the unique firms that grew out of Bangalore, right? There's very few national firms that have grown out of Bangalore. Yeah, hopefully this will also mean that some more will come along, and it's an opportunity for a lot of us. Bangalore today, even today, Bombay, Delhi are, if they have 200 lawyers, the same firm will likely have lesser number of lawyers in Bangalore, but that's fast catching up. There will come a time when Bangalore will have as many lawyers as Bombay and Delhi, and you never know, it could even become more. Yes. So fantastic opportunity for everyone involved.
So who all are the other co-founders? You will like to talk about them and what they bring to the firm, what is their energy, how do you specialize, and which are the areas, how do you do this leadership? Like, there's no concept of ownership of the firm, no super founder, managing partner title, fancy title. How is the firm run on a daily basis? What's the life like?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, the five of us are part of the founding team. Two of them are my classmates from law school, both from the 96 batch. Gaurav and Amimukti in Delhi were people we met several years ago, about 14, 15 years ago, in actually one of the legal conferences somewhere in Europe. And that's how we got to know them. So everything, as I said, is a matter of discussion, but there is a certain amount of respect for certain persons' additional ability, whatever it is in a certain area. For example, one of the partners is completely into IT. We believe he is the best person to guide the firm in its IT solutions going forward. And then we may discuss, we may debate, but ultimately we sort of bow down to him when it comes to IT, and what he decides is what it is. Similarly, it could be something else. In anything to do with people management, people tend to usually defer to me. There is just an understanding that he's probably the best suited for that, and people say, okay, let's go with it. There may be debates, there may be this thing, but ultimately what I say holds good. So there are various little things like this that we have evolved over a period of time simply because we know each other so well. Of course, we do have some basic stuff like saying, oh, if nothing gets decided, it goes by majority, etc. But that's rarely something we've had to use. And we don't believe in it simply because we know what each of our strengths are. So that's what we sort of tend to rely on much more.
And one of the things which my editor-in-chief, Anurag Batra and Ashima, were very clear, that we want to bring out this rise of firms which have a lot of humility attached to it. And the bigger purpose is not only to personal gratification. And that is the kind of culture which will be very futuristic for a country like us. We need bigger law firms, no doubt about it. So few of the practice areas which you are very clearly going to focus now on. And what is your plan for Delhi and Bombay?
Yeah, so you're right. The one thing that we've always consciously sort of done, and that's what has helped us grow, is reinvesting back into the firm. We've been less fussy about how much each of us as founding partners take home. We've been more fussy about investing back into the firm so that we can grow, invest in various practice areas. See, when we started in 2000, to me, 2000 to 2008 were some of the golden years for law firms. And then there were Lehman Brothers, and then it restarted again in maybe 2013, 14, and then firms started growing. But 2000 to 2008, we just set up our firm in Bangalore in 2000. We were just, focusing in Bangalore, doing in Bangalore, and we were working with startups and a lot of that, and just doing legal work. We were not really building out a firm. We started building out a firm only from 2008, 9 onwards, literally post Lehman. And a lot of these firms from 2000 to 2008 had grown naturally and grown into big firms. So the only way for us to catch up was to invest actively into growing the practice by leaving something on the table. We had to get in partners in practice areas that we were not familiar with. And that takes time to build. So you'll have to sort of make sure that you're compensating a partner well enough so that he gets that time and this thing ability to be able to build. So he has to build a team, then he has to build out on his network of clients, and then the revenue grows, because otherwise it's not so easy. So that's something that we had to do a lot of, so that's what we did, and that's what has helped us sort of grow, and we continue to do that. Bombay and Delhi is almost caught up with Bangalore in terms of size. It's somewhat similar. Bombay is a little smaller, but I'm sure in days to come it will grow, possibly bigger than Bangalore. We hope it will, because Bombay is still a larger legal market. We are making sure that there are certain areas. We want to be a full service law firm. We are almost that. There are certain areas that we didn't have. For example, we didn't have capital markets. We made sure that we built out a capital markets practice. Some of our clients were going to the stage from receiving private investment to getting public investment and doing an IPO. The next logical place for them was somebody who could do capital markets work. So we got that in. To be really a tier one firm, you need to have a tax team internally. So you can't always say we're going to work with the big four. So we've got in a tax team. So we're getting a regulatory team, and we're expanding on that. So we are doing whatever, the areas and the gaps that we have as a firm, and making sure we're planning that, consciously looking for people. The great thing is, we don't have a good law. So we are in a happy place where we just have to really choose from the various great lawyers that are approaching us. And that's a good thing now. Yeah. Initially, of course, it was not like that, but now that's how it is, and that's great.
So 2011, I remember that one of the person I was working with, and he was working very closely because I was running my firm, and I was also part of heading an environmental law team of Fox Mundell. At that time, I worked with somebody who joined you and eventually became a partner. And I asked him that what it takes to retain people like you in Indus. And I asked him before this interview, and what a splendid reply he said. He said, because there is so much of so much of opportunity, and there is no toxin. So this is so easily explained. I run a firm where we have 3 partners only. And it's small. I have kept it to small so that I can do all these shows and other stuff. I'm very happy that if it's a tricky environmental law issue, even any firm can approach me, whether it's Amazon issue when I was advising. So it's anything comes to me. But what I realized that our partners they have never left. Like, we are working for almost 10 years together. So I understand the toxin part. Like, so what is your culture thing, which you are very proud of, and which is something you'll tell the youngsters? who are coming out of law school, that what should be the journey?
I think the one key thing that I'm fairly proud of and I talk about a lot is taking people alongside. I and none of us as founding partners have been leaders who'd say, I am going forward, you follow two steps behind me. That's never been the intent. We want to promote other partners. We are happy if they get more than our limelight. We're more than happy for that. The style of my own particularly style has been, I like to take people along. So
Yes.
I involve them in decision making. I ask them, what do you think is the best way we can move forward in this? And then we discuss, we debate, and then I let them do it. It's a collect. I try to keep it as much as possible as a collective decision. So that empowerment and giving them a sense of being able to express themselves, getting a feeling that they are not always in the shadow of the founding partners, and in fact, they can outshine us, and we'll be more than happy if they outshine us. All of that gives, I think, a good sense of belonging and creates that more open culture. And naturally, therefore, toxicity is sort of reduced. And I think that's worked well for us. I'm glad I'm actually running a law firm, but working alongside and taking people along works well in a law firm simply because lawyers are wonderful and very capable and motivated people. If I
Yeah.
was probably running an organization that needed a lot of unskilled workers, maybe this style of leadership wouldn't have worked. But this style of leadership or running a firm works well because it's a law firm.
So I remember when I went to Parag Tripathi for this interview, I asked, he was my senior. I had worked on many transactions. I still work with him alongside him. So he said, why you are doing this? And why should I? I said, because what you do beyond law, that lawyers also have a social equation. They also understand value system. Unfortunately, we are associated as lawyers with so many things which we don't want to be known or being ill famous about. So one aim of the show was to dismantle that stereotyping of a lawyer, that we also are humans. We have a soul, we have gratitude, we have humility. And Parag, like, he came and so many new facets opened up. With you, one of the things which your team says about you, I'll again say it in Hindi, that you are the person, if anybody wants to reach out to anybody in a crisis, it's you. And they reach out to you. So I'm reading the last of the my couplet for you. किसी भी उम्मीद के बिना हमेशा सबका अच्छा करने की कोशिश करना, क्योंकि किसी ने कहा है कि जो लोग फूल बेचते हैं उनके हाथों में खुशबू रह जाती है. So I hope you understand. so that's your personality. I just want to ask you in the end that if the interns come to our firms, or these new people who need a lot of skilling up, they need a lot of upgradation. And our biggest challenge would be the young lawyers. I'm not talking about National Law School or NUJS Calcutta. I'm talking about the normal law school. People who come from a small town. How will they skill up? Because you are right, we have many more law firms are needed. Even Bangladesh have more organized law firms than us, I have been told now. So how do you think, what are the few ingredients you would like to mention which can prepare one for a good career in law, no short-sighted approach?
Well, I guess I think one important thing for them is, whatever college they are, and this is something that I can say from experience, every college, be it, the most lowest in the country, whatever, always has, because those guys have made the individual effort to rise above what the college has been doing for them. And they have done that in various ways, right? One is, which I encourage people to do, is take up internships in, in a bigger city. You want to do dispute resolution, you want to do corporate law, whatever it is, or you take a variety of these practice areas and go to a bigger city and try and do. I mean, I know it's not easiest if economic pressure is also there, but some of the law firms today, including us, quite a few law firms do pay a stipend. So that should something that helps you along. So do try and come to a bigger city, because the exposure you get there is far better than you would get within in your own town or city. And so that's one thing that you must do. You must do serious internships at every, even starting from year one, if you can, starting from year two onwards. I think beyond that, some of the things are, fairly well known. People, the millennials say that we want work-life balance, but I think in the first 8, 10, 12 years, I think you shouldn't think about work-life balance. You've got to sort of give more to this profession. Otherwise, it's going to be hard. That's the unfortunate reality. You can, after that, start thinking of work-life balance, and you can get it. So it depends on individual lawyers. It depends on individual persons. People. Somebody once told me, Aditya Puri, who was the managing director of HDFC, always would switch off his phone and go home by 5 p.m. And the Economist had, rated him the best banker of the decade worldwide. So it's possible. It could be very, very successful doing that. But ultimately, it's each to his own. After a certain years in the profession, it's what gives you that balance and state of comfort. I know partners who work even today 15 hours a day and are absolutely comfortable, happy doing it. They work hard, they play hard. The partners who they don't want to do that. One of my founding partners believes in something called workations. He goes on vacations, significant of time on that vacation to work. I don't know how his family is happy with it, but they've adjusted to it and he likes it and it works for him. So, each his own, so it works. But as a youngster,
I just want to say something to you. You made such an amazing observation, because I am also of the view that, like, I was in Banaras yesterday, before last week I was in Goa High Court. So my partners also more or less work like that. We are always on a picnic and we are happy working. And I remember briefing Jetmalani in a matter, and we were in a high court, and I said, "So what do you think about work-life balance?" He said, "What work-life balance? You should work so hard that there is no balance. There's no need for looking for any balance. Work so hard." He was absolutely surgical about it. So I think it's all, you nailed it so correctly, Suneeth, that basically no pain, no gain. For a few years, this is a craft. We have to craft ourselves so well. Like it's like a painter. It's like, we are not as blessed as doctors and MBAs or even chartered accountants. So we need to skill up in such a way, and that requires virtually, I won't call it a compromise on work-life balance, finding your own way of working, which you enjoy.
Correct.
So any last word which you want to say? We are at the end of the show.
No, nothing in specific, but it's been wonderful talking to you. Only thing I say is, for every young lawyer, work hard. Law firms, great opportunity. Current law firms will easily grow all the existing law firms to institutionalize, professionalize, and if they keep doing that, I think we can become, and we should become, a much bigger organized legal market to service this, $8-10 trillion economy that we will be. And lawyers shouldn't be found short in advising these clients.
Wonderful, Suneeth. Thanks a lot for this show. And I hope that this will be seen on other platforms or on YouTube in the days to come and months to come. And look forward to meeting you in person sometime. Thanks a lot for coming here. Thanks a lot.